Okay, let's set the scene. It was a Thursday, March 28th, 2024. Pretty normal spring day in New York City, you know?
Right. People outside, probably on their phones, just going about their day.
Exactly. But inside this really beautiful luxury townhouse on the Upper East Side, something truly awful was about to happen.
And this place belonged to Isaiah Turner. He was 33, sometimes called the Crypto King.
Right, the Crypto King. What do the sources say about him?
Well, they paint him as a pretty private tech guy, lived alone, and this place was like a $5 million brownstone, super minimalist, smart home, everything, tall windows, the whole deal.
Sounds secure, right? Like a fortress.
You'd think so. But the real target wasn't the house itself. It was invisible.
The crypto.
Yeah, an estimated $30 million worth. And here's the crucial part. According to the sources, it was all stored digitally. The only way in. A password, a private key that only Isaiah knew.
So not in a bank.
Yeah.
Not traceable like normal money.
Exactly. And that's the vulnerability, isn't it? It's just information. His knowledge was the vault. If he loses the key, the money's gone forever.
Which made him, personally, the target, not just his stuff.
Precisely. He wasn't famous, not really, but that digital fortune, it put a huge target on his back.
Okay, so that's what we're digging into today. Using the sources we've gathered, articles, notes, we're going to unpack this whole disturbing story.
Right. How this digital wealth led to such extreme physical violence and what it tells us about security, vulnerability, maybe the dark side of this whole digital gold rush idea.
Let's start with his setup. The sources really highlight this contrast, don't they?
They really do. Outwardly, peak luxury, peak security, $5 million brownstone, fancy neighborhood, smart systems everywhere.
But underneath,
Mhm.
he's alone. And his wealth is, well, it's not really there in a physical sense.
It's just data, secured by that one piece of information in his head. Like you said, if you lose your crypto key, there's no customer service line to call.
No forgot password button for $30 million. Your brain is the only backup.
Which is exactly what the attackers focused on. The sources say investigators found that 3 men targeted him specifically for this reason.
And they didn't start with hacking, did they?
No, fascinatingly, it was old school. Physical surveillance. They watched him, learned his habits, his movements, in person.
Boots on the ground reconnaissance. Figuring out the weak point in his physical world to get to the digital prize.
And then, that Thursday, they made their move.
Just stormed in.
Stormed the townhouse, yeah.
Right.
Overpowered him, bound him with zip ties.
And then dragged him out.
Right out the door. Broad daylight. Shoved him into a black SUV with no plates. And vanished.
In the middle of Manhattan. No witnesses, no screams.
Apparently not. The sources emphasize how chillingly quiet it was. He was just gone.
It's that weird mix, isn't it? High-tech crypto wealth, but the crime itself feels almost low-tech.
Yeah.
Brutal force.
And terrifyingly effective, at least initially. It actually took a whole day for anyone to realize he was missing.
A full day.
Yeah. Then alarms went off, police arrived, swarmed the place, found signs of a break-in, sure, but the really disturbing part was in the basement.
Okay, what did they find down there? The sources were pretty specific.
They were. It sounds like something out of a horror film. The room was basically converted into well, the sources called it a DIY torture chamber. On the concrete floor, they found restraints, electrical cords, even a pair of leg spreaders, blood stains on the wall, and a single chair bolted to the floor.
Bolted down. So this wasn't about grabbing a TV and running.
Not at all. This setup screamed intent, prolonged coercion, pain. They were there to break him physically to get that password.
To force the transfer of digital wealth through physical torture.
That seems to be exactly the plan. After they abducted him, authorities say they drove him about 80 miles north.
Out of the city.
Yeah, to a house in Queensbury, upstate New York. And that's where the ordeal really intensified. For 3 days.
3 days. What happened there?
The sources say they beat him, starved him, just relentless pressure. Give us the code.
Awful. Did they threaten him directly?
They did. One attacker reportedly told him flat out, "We will kill you if you don't give it up."
Jesus. And eventually, he broke.
Understandably, yes. He gave them access.
And they took the money.
Instantly. Over $1 million in crypto. Just siphoned out of his wallet. Gone in a flash. A digital heist enabled by pure physical terror.
So they got him far away, no witnesses to the abduction. You'd think they might get away with it.
Right. But here's where they messed up, according to the sources. They didn't seem to fully grasp the nature of crypto itself.
How so?
While the transfer felt invisible to them, maybe, Every single transaction on the blockchain is public, it's recorded, it leaves a permanent, traceable digital fingerprint.
Ah, the blockchain ledger. Not so anonymous after all.
Not when law enforcement knows how to look. And they did. The NYPD, federal agents, they started following those digital tracks.
And that led them back to the suspects.
It was the starting point. But then they layered on physical evidence, the source's detail. Surveillance footage caught one suspect buying the zip ties and duct tape used.
The actual tools.
Okay. More footage showed another suspect entering Isaiah's townhouse wearing gloves. And phone location data pings placed the suspect's phones right at that upstate house during the time Isaiah was held.
Wow. So digital trail, physical evidence. They closed in fast.
Pretty fast, yeah. By April 1st, just days after the abduction, they made the arrests.
Who do they get?
Matthew Kaufman, who's 36, Tennyson Troutman, 33, and there was a third suspect mentioned in the sources, but not publicly identified at that time.
And the charges?
Serious ones. Kidnapping, robbery, unlawful imprisonment, assault, and attempted murder. Reflects the brutality of it all.
And Isaiah Turner. He survived this.
He did, thankfully. The sources say he's currently in protective custody.
Which makes sense. But the trauma.
Yeah, the sources acknowledge that. Surviving something like that, it leaves scars. Physical, psychological, that doesn't just vanish.
Okay, so that's the harrowing story itself. Let's zoom out a bit now, based on these sources. This feels like more than just one crime, right? It touches on bigger themes.
Absolutely. The sources frame it almost like a collision point. The new digital gold rush meeting, very old school, violent crime.
Gold has always drawn blood, as they say, digital or otherwise.
And what's striking here is how the nature of the asset shifted the point of attack. It wasn't about breaking into a vault. It was about breaking the person holding the key.
Right. Isaiah wasn't just rich and alone. His wealth was, fundamentally outside the traditional system, unbanked, hard to trace in old ways, which made him, his mind, his body, the weakest link.
No guards for the actual fortune. Just a guy, a townhouse, and this incredibly valuable secret in his head.
It really makes you rethink digital security, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We focus so much on passwords, encryption, 2FA.
Right, the cyber side. But what happens when the hack is physical? When someone can literally beat the password out of you? The sources really force that question. Does physical security become more important for people holding their own crypto keys?
It seems like the answer, in this case at least, is a chilling yes. It's this nexus of luxury, tech, crime, ambition.
And isolation. Maybe the most dangerous thing now is being valuable and alone, like the sources suggest. Your assets might be digital, but you're still physical, vulnerable.
And the attackers knew it. Their whole plan, based on the sources, was about physical control, not digital intrusion.
Exactly. Get the person, get the key.
So for you listening, what does a case like this make you think about digital asset security? If you hold crypto or even just think about digital ownership, does this change how you view the risks?
Does it highlight that intersection between your physical safety and your digital wealth? Where does the real vulnerability lie when the asset is intangible but you aren't?
It really pushes the idea that security isn't just about code. It's about protecting the human element, especially when the ultimate key is just knowledge, a memory.
A physical security challenge wrapped up in a digital asset context.
So we've gone deep into this really disturbing case following the trail laid out in the sources. A story where immense digital wealth held only in someone's mind became the motive for incredible violence.
Yeah, it peels back the shiny surface of the digital gold rush to show something much uglier, much more dangerous underneath.
And it leaves us, and you, with a final thought, really stemming from these sources. In a world leaning more and more into digital assets, maybe more remote work, more physical isolation, how does this story shift our perspective?
How do we think about that link between our physical safety and our digital wealth now? What kind of vault is ever truly safe when the key isn't metal or code, but something inside your own head?
Something definitely worth considering as we all navigate this future.